Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us at the Licensing Subcommittee this morning. I'm going to run through the first points on the agenda. And
can you all make sure your PCs are muted?
I don't think that's the laptop.
Sorry, your laptops, yeah. Just picking up some feedback there.
Okay, so the first item on the agenda is election of a chair for the hearing. I'm happy to receive nominations for chair.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate yourself today.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, councillors. The next item is housekeeping. I'll ask the clerk to read out the housekeeping notice regarding how the meeting will be managed.
Thank you, Chair. Please note that this meeting is being recorded by the Council for live broadcast and will be published on the Council website for a minimum of 6 months. The meeting may also be recorded or streamed for live or subsequent broadcast by members of the public, although ultimate discretion in this matter lies with the Chair in case of disruption. For those in the room, please note that if the fire alarm sounds, please exit the building by way of the nearest available signed fire exit route and make your way to the assembly point at the War Memorial in the gardens opposite the front of this building in Bourne Avenue. Finally, please can we ensure background noise is kept to a minimum and mobile phones and other devices are turned off or switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. For those in the room, this includes turning off microphones and turning the volume down completely on your laptops. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 2 is apologies. Have we received any apologies for this meeting?
None received, Chair.
Superb. Item 3, declarations of interest. Subcommittee members. Councillor Matthews, do you have any conflicts of interest?
Not today, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Richardson?
No, thank you, Chair.
I can confirm that I also have no conflicts of interest on this hearing. I'd like all present to note we include a protocol for public speaking at hearings. This will have gone out with the agenda sheet for noting. And that brings us on to our first substantive item of the day, which is the application for your eyes only, 134 to 136 Old Christchurch Road. I will ask each member of the subcommittee to introduce themselves and state their role. I am Councillor Alistair Keddy and I'll be chairing the subcommittee today.
Good morning. I'm Councillor Chris Matthews. I'm a member of the subcommittee this morning.
Councillor Judy Richardson, member of the subcommittee.
Thank you, members. We are also joined by Councillor Peter Sidaway as a reserve. Councillor Sidaway will not be participating, but will be observing for training purposes. Then I would ask the BCP Council officers to introduce themselves.
Good morning, Sarah Rogers, Principal Licensing Officer.
Good morning, I'm Linda Cole, the Legal Advisor to the subcommittee this morning.
Good morning, I'm Michelle Cutler and I'm the clerk to the Licensing Subcommittee.
Thank you. And for the applicant, we have Mr. Piers Warne.
Yes, good morning, Chair.
Thank you, Piers. And we are also joined by Glenn, is it Nisi?
Nisi, correct.
Nisi.
Yeah. Morning.
We have an objection being presented by Susan Stockwell.
That's correct, Chair. Good morning.
Good morning. Before I run through the procedure, can I check that all persons who have given notice of their intention to speak have been identified, and any person who wishes to withdraw a representation or wishes not to speak has been identified? So everybody who intends to speak is present. Okay, I will take that as correct. The proposed procedure and order of speaking for the hearing will run as follows. The BCP Licensing Officer will present their report. Questions of the Licensing Officer by all parties will follow. Members of the subcommittee to go first. The applicant will make their application, followed by questions of the applicant by all parties, members of the subcommittee to go first. Objectors will make their representations. Questions of the persons objecting by all parties will follow, members of the subcommittee to go first. And all parties will be given an opportunity to sum up, with the party who spoke last going first. We will then conclude the hearing and the subcommittee will deliberate in private with our legal advisor and clerk present. Notification of the subcommittee's decision will be given within the period of 5 working days, beginning with the day or the last day on which the hearing was held. The notification of decision will include information about the right of appeal as appropriate. I will now ask all parties to confirm agreement on the proposed procedure or make representations. Sarah.
Yes, thank you.
Linda. For the applicant, are you happy? Okay, and Susan.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Excellent. I would like to remind all parties speaking not to repeat the information which they have already given in writing, but to expand on their written representations. All questions are to be asked through the chair. We will not have any cross-examination of parties. And on that note, I will pass to our licensing officer to present the report.
Thank you. Application is made by Bournemouth Bars Limited for the renewal and the transfer of the sexual entertainment venue licence held at 134 to 140 Old Christchurch Road for a further 12-month period. The premises have had the benefit of this licence, permitting the live performance of nudity known as relevant entertainment, and have been operating as an adult lap dancing club for over 20 years. The application made complies with the relevant legislation, and the necessary site and newspaper notices were published in accordance with that legislation. In addition to this, notice of the application was published on the council's website. As a result of the public consultation, 2 objections were received. No objections were received from Dorset Police, the Fire Service, Environmental, Health and Trading Standards, who were also consulted on the application. Section 8 of the Act allows the authority to renew a licence on such terms and conditions and subject to such restrictions as may be specified. And any decision to refuse this renewal application must be relevant to mandatory or discretionary grounds as set out in my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have questions for Sarah from members?
Not at this stage, Chair.
None, thank you.
Do we have questions of the licensing officer from the applicant? Thank you. And do we have questions of the licensing officer from the objector?
I do have a couple of comments, Chair, but I mean, they've been heard before. The in the report.
Excuse me, we are.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is for questions rather than comments.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll put it as a question then.
Thank you.
Would you be prepared to? Oh, and it's through you, isn't it? Yes, Chair. Would you be prepared to reconsider the statement in the report that there is a presumption in favour of the licensing, given that in alcohol licensing it is specifically stated there's a presumption in favour. In gambling licensing, there's also a specific presumption in favour stated in the legislation, presumption in favour of licensing when certain conditions are met. And I haven't been able to see any presumption stated in the legislation for this form of licensing. I would suggest that you confer. I beg your pardon. Could you please confer with your officers on whether in fact this is a neutral rather than a presumption in favour of licensing.
Okay, I would note that gambling, alcohol and SEV operate under different legislation, but I will ask our legal advisor to clarify.
Absolutely. The second of 4 points is that
I was going to take that comment
I beg your pardon.
in line,
That's
if that's
going to happen
okay.
now. You're right. I thought that would be later. Sorry.
Thank you,
I'll tell me.
Mrs Stockwell. It's probably easy that I respond rather than the licensing officer. So you have asked the question before, and I've probably given you the same answer before. But basically, you are quite right. It is very clear in the Gambling Act and the Licensing Act that there is a presumption. Not so clear in this legislation, but it is very clear that what the council makes their decision on is they look at the mandatory grounds and they look at the discretionary grounds. So the way we word things is unless they find something in those mandatory grounds or discretionary grounds to refuse, there is a presumption that we will grant as a council.
Thank you. The second point is that I wonder if I could ask why there's no plan attached in the report, because you are going to be asked about the premises, or you're going to be making a decision on the premises, and I can't see a plan in front of you. I can see a location plan, but I can't see. I have been sent one by your officers in the past, but I've mislaid it. But I do think it's quite important that you have one in front of you as well, because the point about the courtyard comes up for the smoking area. So that's a question.
The only plan we have is attached to the Licensing Act premises licence, and as a matter of course for these applications we wouldn't put a copy of the plan in. I can distribute one if you need one.
Am I right in understanding there has been no material change to the layout plan of that premises?
That's correct. It's exactly the same.
Okay, I'm aware from previous hearings of the layout. Unless there is a particular material issue that's arising from the plan, I would say no.
Well, I was going to bring it up later, but as it's come up now, there is in the statement, the supplementary statement, which we haven't actually come on to yet, so I can stop and say later, the business of the smoking area in a courtyard. And actually, unless you know the area, it is highway at the back and not a private area. And I don't know exactly where they mean by the courtyard, whether it's what is highway and has been gated or not.
What I would ask is if that's a question you have of the applicant, that
Yes,
we follow this route at that point.
Quite.
If that's
The
agreeable.
third of fourth points is that the business of moral objections comes up in the report, and that's quoting the guidance from central government. Now, that guidance is not legally binding on you. It's not statutory guidance. It's a snapshot in time of what the administration at that
Mrs
point.
Stockwell, have you got a question or are you making a
yes,
comment?
beg your pardon. Yeah. Could you please, could I ask you to bear in mind that the case law is that you cannot have a pure, that's not a question, is it?
No, you can include this later on when you're having your opportunity.
Okay, I'll add it later then.
Okay.
That seems reasonable. And the questioning lastly on the complaints is, I think there's a statement that there have been no complaints in the last year, whereas I was under the impression that I'd made 2 complaints, one which are already stated in the papers. So
I think you're going into comment again. If you've got a question about the complaints.
Oh yes, why are the 2 complaints that I made about touting not in the report? Why is there instead a statement that there weren't any complaints in the last year?
Because it was a complaint about all of the establishments, not just these premises. You addressed all of the sex establishment premises, so they were dealt with as a whole, and there was no issue with the premises at that time.
So we're talking about pre-existing complaints prior to the wording that's been submitted in your representation.
I'm afraid, Chair, I can't remember the exact dates of when I can't remember the exact dates of when I saw the social media posts which were advertising sponsorship of a boxing event and 2 dancers attending to give out, I don't know whether that actually happened. I wasn't there. All I've done is seen social media posts. And the
So your question is
why wasn't that included
why
as a
haven't prior
complaint
complaints
breach?
been that were logged been included in that stat?
Yes.
Let me just speak.
I'm just trying to find out.
Yeah,
I'm
please.
just looking in the report where it says there's no complaint. So paragraph 5, we've got. Sorry, that's during the last 12 months of the SCB, no complaints have been received about the conduct of dancers and management of the venue. Is there another reference to complaints that you're referring to?
Well, I would assume that the decision to recruit somebody to use doorman was part of the management of the venue, and the decision to use a promotional activity.
Okay, so that
elsewhere.
is what you're referring to in the
Yes,
report?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right, well, we'll just take the answer then that the licensing officer has given you, that she was of the view the complaint was about touting. It was just generally regarding all the SCB premises. I don't understand. I don't know.
I can add, though, that the boxing event wasn't even at those premises. It was nothing to do with the premises. That's correct, isn't it?
No, the licence does say at any place, not just on the premises, that the touting mustn't be going on.
Shall we move on? Have you any more questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your representation. For your questions, we'll move to your representation shortly. So if there are no further questions of the licensing officer, we will move to the applicant to make their application.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair. I always find it slightly off-putting seeing my face on a large screen behind. I think I'm going to have to start wearing makeup to hearings and cover up the blotches. There's 2 parts to this application, as you've heard. There's the transfer of the licence and then the renewal. The transfer is from Hampshire Restaurants Limited to Bournemouth Bars Limited. The guiding minds, if you like, behind the operation of the premises, Glenn, who's here with us today, remain the same, and indeed he was operating under a management agreement and was here last year for the renewal, if any of you were here last year. So effectively that is a transfer into another company's name, but actually, if you like, all the underlying operation remains the same in terms of management and operation of the premises. The second part, obviously, is the renewal. It was very useful, actually, at page 14, the background in your report talks about the length of time the club's been there, over 20 years. Obviously, the point about there being no complaints received about the conduct of dancers or management of the venue, I'll let Mrs. Stockwell obviously address you as to what the nature of her complaint and how she evidences what she says is touting is, and then perhaps we can have a discussion about that if needs be at the time. But we endorse what's said here in terms of no complaints in relation to the operation of the premises, and indeed no reason to complain about the operation of the premises for the last 12 months. There is discussion, obviously. Ms. Stockwell refers to the policy, which is an issue that I think comes up fairly perennially here in terms of an SEV policy. That there isn't one in place at the moment. You'll have seen in my letter, which is dated the 10th of December, and I think Mrs. Stockwell's seen it, that I address it in there. I don't think it's actually relevant, if you like, to the renewal, this issue about the policy at all. And indeed, as has been said by your legal advisor, these applications are determined on mandatory and discretionary grounds, and I will keep my comments to the discretionary grounds. for dealing with this matter, as they are the ones that are relevant. The mandatory ones are being over 18 and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's the discretionary grounds that are important here. And I do note, and I will reiterate the comment that there has to be a reason not to renew, which is why there is a presumption of renewal, if that makes sense. So the premises has operated as a sexual entertainment venue since 1997, so predating the adoption of the Act here, and in fact predating the Licensing Act as well. A premises license was granted in 2006, and then I think since 2010, when this council adopted the Miscellaneous Provisions Act, there's been an SEV, and that's been renewed annually ever since. In terms of the grounds, then, the character of the location is one of the discretionary grounds. You'll be aware of this. There has been no material change we submit since the 2024 renewal, and indeed this committee, as recently as May of this year, renewed an SEV licence for a premises literally just down the road, a stone's throw away, on the basis that there had been no change to the nature of the area or the character of the location, as it says in the Act. And in fact, in that determination, made the point that the licensing academy was not relevant, as the premises obviously opens in the evening, way past the time that the academy students would be walking past the doors. Citrus and Trinity buildings get referenced. There are no complaints from either of those buildings or objections to this application or by the residents or anyone on their behalf. So I'll ask you to take that into account when it comes to making your determination on the renewal here. Layout is another discretionary ground. It is the same layout, I can confirm, as last year. Nothing has changed. There has been discussion about the courtyard, which is a small area for smoking. You won't be surprised to hear that fewer dancers smoke nowadays, so the area doesn't get used as much as it used to do. It is a discrete small area off the back of the premises that is away. I don't think it's relevant, if I'm perfectly honest, to this application. The smoking area, it's there, it has been there, it is used as it always has been, without any concerns raised before. Public sector equality duty is obviously another factor that comes up, and it's come up in the representations today. It is worth noting that the premises does attract, and is attracting more regularly now, a diverse customer base. It's welcoming to all genders. And indeed, couples and women in groups will come to the premises now, certainly more regularly, and it's increasing in that way in terms of business, because it is a safe space which is well managed, and I've dealt with that in some detail in my letter. That actually, because of the management, because of the waiter and waitress staff, and the nature of the premises, it's a place where you can go and you can have a drink and a chat. And indeed, it's quite safe, and you don't get the kind of hustle and bustle or loud music that you'd get at other late night establishments. So it does actually attract a wide and diverse group of people to come to the premises. The dancers freely choose to work at the premises in a lawful and legitimate industry. They are well cared for. They are looked after very well. You'll have seen all the codes of conduct for customers. You'll have seen the code of conduct for dancers that are all included in the papers. In fact, at pages 26 to 29, you can see the policies there. And also, there are the significant and robust SEV conditions on the premises license, which have to be adhered to at all times, and those are in your papers at pages 34 and 35. 33 to 35, and they cover all kinds of things such as conduct and management, advertising, CCTV, codes of conduct, etc., staff welfare provisions. And there's no evidence produced to suggest any breaches of any of the above. Finally, no objections from the police or other authorities. They were obviously consulted as part of the application when we submitted the renewal. And there are no issues suggesting crime or disorder associated with the premises either. So my submission is that you can transfer the licence as I've set out, and grant the renewal as applied for, and all the conditions will then sit on the licence as they have done for the years past. Chair, those are my hopefully quite brief submissions today. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. I just have a quick question of our legal advisor. The question of the transfer of the licence is coming up, but I believe that's out of the scope of today. We're only dealing with the renewal.
No, both.
Both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but the grounds you consider are the same as
Okay.
in the report.
I appreciate the clarity.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'll now go to members to ask questions of the applicant. Members, do we have questions?
I don't at this stage, Chair.
Thank you.
Yes, just one, yeah.
You're my guest.
Yes. Are the new owners confident that they can maintain the fairly high standard of management that the current owners have?
I can answer that. Yes, of course. I've been part of this business for the last 20 years. So I run 5 clubs around the country, all SEVLs, and we all, as a brand, we hold a high standard. I've taken this back, and we've tidied it up, made it a nice environment, and it's probably the nicest club in town, in my opinion.
Do we have anything further? Okay. I would like to invite the objector to ask questions.
Chair, do you object to have any questions for the applicant?
No, I'm just asking that.
Sorry.
Yep.
Thank you, Chair. There's 2 points, Chair. I'd like to ask the applicant through you whether he has any instructions on whether the events which I say were touting actually happened, because I didn't see them happen, and I think it's important that you know whether there was an event sponsored on the Purbex which was advertised for. Maybe this didn't happen. Anything can happen on social media. I have no idea whether it actually happened. Whether this actually happened, that what was reported on social media of the event being advertised for over 16s. So I don't know whether anybody between the age of 16 and 17 was admitted. May not have happened, but it was certainly advertised as that. So that's people under 18. There's no suggestion that any sexual entertainment took place at this event. I must be very clear, not misleading you on that at all. All that I'm suggesting happened from the social media posts is that the club was advertised by giving out free wristbands. I don't know how long it's been since you've been clubbing, but you know, the wristband thing where you have free entry from that seemed to be what was being promoted. And it's a matter of fact for you to decide whether that is touting or not in the terms of the licence. And obviously the other, whether anybody actually was recruited to, I would say, tout the club via the door staff in the neighbourhood. So it's 2 different things. Whether, if Chair, if I could ask whether the applicant has any instructions on that.
First of all, I'd query whether there is any sort of direct allegation of touting in what's been said. There was a boxing match out of Bournemouth earlier this year where there were a couple of ring girls provided for the boxing, but that was not, if you like, any touting or anything to do with the business. It was just purely for that boxing bout, if you like. In terms of touting in town, any activities that take place are always checked through the council. So any activities in terms of advertising the premises are checked through the council and verified. And as you'll see, there's no complaints or any evidence of anything along the lines of touting occurring. Obviously, there are people in town who know of the premises, but that's not the same as going out and incentivizing people to send people to the premises, which is my understanding, my instructions are, is not what's happening.
Thank you. I'd like to seek some clarity on what the licence conditions are for FYEO in terms of their advertising and promotion and what would be considered touting. Is it possible?
Yeah, well, I mean, the condition is condition 19, advertising premises appearance and layout. There should be no touting for business in any area of the premises by, but not limited to, persons holding advertising boards, leafleting, advertising on branded vehicles or personal solicitation, including, and this includes leafleting.
Is there a certain radius you mentioned on premise? Would advertising and promotion that's happening 10, 20 miles fall into the scope of that condition?
Well, it doesn't, it's definitely not saying any area of the business. So, I mean, I haven't taken a view on it.
Okay.
My view is if a club's advertising something that's happening in the Purbex.
I believe the issue
I
is...
I don't know the nature of the marketing, I'm sorry, so...
That's fair enough. Okay, if we take an example for consideration, from what I'm hearing, my understanding is there was a boxing event in the Purbex. FYEO provided 2 ring girls, and there were also free entry wristbands that were handed out as part of that event. So in the
Purbex.
In the Purbex. So I think what I'm trying to establish is, with condition 19, would that fall out of scope? In terms of, would that be considered touting, or is that legitimate promotion?
I haven't got a 100% answer to it, but I think the way the nature of the condition and what it was written for, and maybe it was written in a time before social media, was there would be no leafleting, touting, advertising boards in and around the premises to draw people, attract people in from the town centre. I mean, that was how the condition was.
I'm sorry, Chair, I may have misheard, but I have of, whereas I read the word for, and it turns very much on that. May I...
Sorry, something that I've read.
Yes, it's so.
Well, I'll read it again. I don't know what I said. There shall be no touting for business in any area of the premises.
No, that's where I've got something written down differently. I've got for rather than of.
If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to hear the legal advisor.
Why don't you have a look at your report, page 33, and then you'll...
Yes, that's what I've got. Yeah, I heard you say of, whereas I've got written for. It turns it completely.
Are we talking about condition?
Well,
In
maybe it's
any
my
area
area
for the premises, not of the premises.
Area.
It says any area for the premises.
Advertising boards, leafleting, advertising on branded vehicles. I mean, as a condition, it kind of leaves things a little open. As part of our deliberations, we would need to decide whether the context is in and around the immediate premises.
But maybe the point, what you're making is you're just trying to make the point they're breaching a condition, are you?
Well, yes, but...
Okay, so it's for the committee then to consider, well, one, whether they feel it's a breach, and secondly, whether it's a significant breach. Okay. Okay, I apologise for the word that.
So I will note that as part of our deliberation.
May I just quickly address you on the point, because obviously it's clear that the whole purpose there is touting, and what they're looking at is the idea of people walking around or advertising on vehicles around the premises, you know, effectively unsolicited. This was a ticketed boxing match where ring girls were provided and wristbands were provided. So it wasn't touting in the sense of going out and finding custom. It was part of the boxing event, if you like. So we took the view, and it took the view at the time, as you've heard, Glenn takes these things very seriously, that it didn't come close to the threshold of touting in the sense of that condition. And it's not actually unusual to have, if you like, these kind of things at boxing events like that. So it was an internal event. And all of it was contained within that event, so it isn't out on the streets, if you like, in the sense of touting as it's described in this condition.
Thank you. Okay, we.
I don't want to labour the point, but are you looking at the same document? Because if there's a typo or a word, are you looking at
I
the
believe
same?
we are.
I think we are.
Yeah, page 33, special conditions for SEV entertainment venues.
Thanks.
So we will note and deliberate on that, balancing both your statements. Please do.
My second question is, if you, Chair, if you could perhaps ask the applicant whether he could operate his club, so his clients could operate he could operate his club successfully as a business with the 1 metre rule as a condition. That's the rule that while there is nudity that requires licensing going on, like the bits of the body are exposed that require the licence for the sexual entertainment, that you have a distance of 1 metre between the dancer and the customer. Now, the reason for raising that is because in the documents that we've got here of the conduct of the dancers and the conduct of the customers, that we have no mention of contact for the customers, how they should behave, and we've also, in the conduct for the dancers, we've got not to have full body contact. Now, I think that really does take it on from the last operators said, no, we are a no contact club. Now, for the safety of the dancers and the customers, I would suggest that you ask this question of whether actually, given what's been put in these documents, they can operate, because we don't want the situation where you grant a licence with that condition and then they're able to appeal because it's not possible to operate. Thank you.
Okay, if I may, so to boil down your question, you would like to ask the applicant if they would consider operating a 1 metre rule as part of their non-contact policy.
Well, whether they'd be able to run a business on that basis.
Okay, that's a slightly broader question.
The appeal.
Are you happy to take that question?
If you, well, yeah. So the reason why these conditions and the special conditions are here are that they apply across the board, and there has been no allegations of any breaches of those conditions, and our code of conduct fits with those conditions. We certainly wouldn't want to see additional conditions added that then can add to breaches, you know, if you like, in the sort of in this, by breaching outside of the spirit of what's meant to happen. That's why these conditions are here, and that's why they've sat on these licenses for a significant period of time. We wouldn't want any additional conditions added to those. Glenn, I don't know if there was anything you wanted to say just in terms of the operation.
Yeah, we've operated under these conditions for years. Like I owned Furors Only when we first opened it. I'm the brand Furors Only. We've across the country, and they're all the same conditions, and they are tailored to the conditions of the Bournemouth license. And so, yes, to answer the question, certainly operated well and within the legislation and within the conditions that we have.
Thank you. Do you have a follow-up?
No, Chair, I think Mr. Nessie said
Okay,
His piece.
thank you. Do we have any further questions of the applicant at all? Councillor Richardson.
In relation to that last piece, the contact with customers, how does that work when, if dancers are invited to a table and tips are given? And surely that's very close contact, isn't it? You can invite a dancer to your table and then hand a tip of £10 or for topless or 20 for full nude. So I'm thinking of the safety of the dancers and that.
Yeah, you are allowed to do that. There's very strict rules on, obviously you'll see the code of conduct for customers, which includes that they have to keep their hands on the seats at all times, etc. But handing over money, we wouldn't see as being an issue in terms of that code of conduct. There are obviously staff and door staff and other people around that closely monitor, and there's a significant CCTV monitoring station as well, which is permanently monitored as well. So anyone who starts breaching any of the conditions or even looking like they're going to breach the conditions, first of all, the dancers are very clear and empowered to remind customers of what the rules are. And if that doesn't work, then they'll step away and someone from management can come in and reiterate what they are. But simply handing over the money, we wouldn't see as being a breach of any of those conditions.
Also, the transaction, the money is handed over before they start the performance, so they're fully clothed. So the whole idea is no contact during the performance. So when they're getting undressed, that helps.
These are our conditions.
So that's under item 47.
Yeah, 47.
Just to add from our legal support, under the Code of Conduct, item 47, there are a number of conditions and guidances around touching, exchanging of personal information, and other relevant information. So if we have no further questions of the applicant, we will move on to the objector making their representation.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just start with the elephant in the room, which is vexatious? I'm sure you've all had training in the alcohol licensing that if somebody comes back repeatedly with the same points, that's vexatious and not allowed. Now, these alcohol license goes on forever unless someone stops it. These licenses are just for a year or up to a year. If I were to come back within that year with same thing, bang, 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 then that would be definitely vexatious. But the other objectors already pointed out the case law, which says you can look at the same thing twice and make a different decision. There's also been a little bit of a concern, I think, locally about possibility of, is this all costing the taxpayer a lot of money? And it shouldn't be, because it should all be coming out of the fees paid. Anyway, that's just getting that out of the way.
Can we just concentrate on this application? Don't worry about what's in the echo and all the rest of it. So you just make your objection to this application, please.
No, I just thought it might impact on my credibility as somebody giving you information.
We are here to consider the scope and the context of this hearing and this hearing only.
Yeah. Okay. And you're entitled to make your objections
Thank you.
annually.
I'd also like to say that I'm a little bit disappointed that the application form that your committee authorises the applicants to fill out has lost the not legally essential but quite sensible provision that you had previously to state who the landlords are, who's actually controlling a premises. Not the operators, who are obviously the applicants, but the people who actually are, sitting there making the money out of this from collecting the rent. So a bit disappointed that that's what your committee's decided to do. On this business of whether there's been any evidence that anything bad has happened as a result of the FIEO customers, I would say that then the applicant is not on trial for inciting criminal offences. This isn't a criminal trial for did they incite any of the sexual assaults that have gone on in the other licensed premises away from the security. It's not that. It is you deciding what's best for Bournemouth, and that's for the residents, for the holiday makers and the businesses. And I say that it's not best for Bournemouth to keep licensing the strip clubs. It's had a devastating effect on the nightlife, and that is expanding my point that this is not a good location, not an appropriate location, is the fact that it has had a bad effect on residents, holiday makers and businesses locally. You'll possibly be aware that Cameo nightclub at the back of FYEO has shrunk quite a bit. I haven't seen the plans, I don't know how much by.
Please, we're not talking about any other premises.
No,
Can we
I'm
just-
talking about the neighbourhood and the use of the other premises.
We don't need to name other premises in your objection. Can you just concentrate on this premises, please?
As we said before, we need to stay within the scope of the current hearing and current premises application.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I don't know how I can expand. I mean, the terms of the application, the terms of an objection are to be in broad terms. They're not to be detailed, in the expectation that you will allow an expansion on what's put in the objection. And I don't feel I'm being allowed that opportunity to expand.
So to keep it within the scope of the current application, bringing other premises in by name takes us outside of that scope. I do understand that under the Miscellaneous Provisions Act, there are elements of the legislation that refer to location, and I do welcome very specific points around that. It's useful if it's evidenced or supported by.
Yeah, I'm happy to
Statutory
try to
objectives.
avoid individual named premises then in that case, Chair, if that's a compromise then.
Okay.
Fine. Anyway, moving on from that. Every time I come before you, I give you all the law and all the facts that allow you to make a decision to refuse sex establishment licensing. If you choose to, I would say, inflict a sex establishment on this neighbourhood again this year, then that will be a purely political decision. Your hands are not tied by law or facts. You've got both available to you to refuse. Now,
I just have to pause there. Politics doesn't come into this decision-making process at all. This is down to us as individual members in a quasi-judicial setting. There is and should not be any political inference within these proceedings at all, and certainly not on my watch.
Well, thank you, Chair. And if I could withdraw that last remark about politics, then I'll just say that it will be in the exercise of your discretion that you have the discretion to refuse this. I have my eyes very much on the prize. You're probably a bit wondering what on earth I'm doing here again, but I have my eyes on the prize of a thriving, safe nightlife throughout central Bournemouth. Now, I have had experience where I live on Ashley Cross, which is where people go for a thriving, safe nightlife. And I have trotted along in the pouring rain to a public consultation. I'm saying this to show you what power you have to influence the nightlife and to really improve it in central Bournemouth. I've trotted along to the police on public consultation and said, look, I don't want the meat wagons parked up. I don't want wagons full every weekend where I live of police waiting for the punch-ups. I want some licensing conditions, and they jolly well went and did that. And it is a safe, thriving place now. And I think you've got the power to do that here in central Bournemouth. and all these other parts of Bournemouth that are thriving and not central Bournemouth. Now, you hold the power.
Thank you. Members, do we have any questions of the objector?
No, thank you.
I would like to ask the applicant if you have any questions of the objector.
No, thank you very much. Thank you.
Do we have any further questions of the objector before we move forward? Okay. So at this point, we move to summing up with the last person to give representations to go first. That will be our objector, Susan.
Thank you, Chair. I think I've already done my summing up in the submission, so.
Thank you. I will pass to the applicant to sum up.
Thank you very much, Chair. I've only got a very few words just to reiterate a couple of points. Firstly, as we started here today, there is a presumption to grant insofar as you have to find a reason not to grant. And in this case, it is our submissions that there is no evidence of any crime and disorder associated with the premises or any bad behaviour associated with the premises or breaches of conditions that would allow for a refusal of this application. I've set out in my letter in some detail this discretionary grounds and what we say about that, and so I won't reiterate that. But there are numbered paragraphs 4, 5, and 6 if you want to go through those again. I think it's fair to say that Mr. Nisi has been associated with this premises for a significant period of time. So in terms of the transfer, actually you're transferring a company, not the operation, if that makes sense. So that stays very much as was in terms of, as he said, a bit of tidying up and a bit of sort of refocusing the premises, but otherwise to the very high standards and exacting standards that he expects from all of his clubs and that you expect from clubs in Bournemouth. On that basis, I would therefore respectfully ask this committee to transfer and renew the SEVL licence here today. Thank you.
Thank you. And could I ask our licensing officer to sum up?
I have nothing further to add, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to thank everybody for making their representations. We will now conclude the hearing. The subcommittee will deliberate in private with our legal advisor and clerk present. Notification of the subcommittee's decision will be given within the period of 5 working days, beginning with the day or the last day in which the hearing was held. On that note, I will now conclude the hearing and we will adjourn. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for rejoining us. We are now moving on to item 6 of the agenda, which is the application for Simply Pleasure at 333 to 335 Holdenhurst Road, Bournemouth. So I will now ask each participant in the subcommittee to introduce themselves and state their role. I am Councillor Alistair Keddy and I will be chairing the subcommittee this morning.
Morning, I'm Councillor Chris Matthews. I'm a member of the subcommittee this morning.
Councillor Judy Richardson, member of the subcommittee this morning.
And for BCP Council, we have
Sarah Rogers, Principal Licensing Officer, BCP.
And I'm Linda Cole, the legal advisor to the subcommittee.
Good morning, I'm Michelle Cutler and I'm the clerk to the licensing subcommittee this morning.
Thank you. And for the applicant, we have Tom Clark.
Yeah, Tom Clark, National Retail Manager for Simply Pleasure.
And objecting, we have Susan Stockwell.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Before I run through the procedure, can I check that all persons who have given notice of their intention to speak have been identified, and any persons who wish to withdraw a representation or wish not to speak have also been identified? I think we have everyone present that we expect. I will take this as correct. I will now explain the proposed procedure and order of speaking for the hearing as follows. The licensing officer will present their report. Questions of the licensing officer by all parties will follow. Members of the subcommittee to go first. The applicant will make their application. Questions of the applicant by all parties, members of the subcommittee to go first. The objector will make their representation. Questions of the person objecting by all parties, members of the subcommittee to go first. Then all parties will be given an opportunity to sum up with the party who spoke last to go first. We will then conclude the hearing and the subcommittee will deliberate in private with our legal advisor and clerk present. Notification of the subcommittee's decision will be given within the period of 5 working days, beginning with the day or the last day on which the hearing was held. The notification of decision will include information about the right of appeal as appropriate. I will now ask all parties to confirm agreement on this procedure or make representations.
That's fine, Chair.
If all parties are happy to proceed, I would like to remind all parties speaking not to repeat the information that they have given in writing, but to expand on the written representations. All questions are to be asked through the chair, and there will be no cross-examination of parties. And on that note, I will now ask the licensing officer to present their report.
Thank you. Application is made by ABS Holdings Limited for the renewal of the sex establishment licence for a further 12-month period. The premises have been operating as a licensed sex shop for approximately 23 years under the current ownership. The licence permits them to sell products, magazines, films, clothing and equipment connected with sexual activity. The application made complies with the relevant legislation and the necessary site and newspaper notices were published in accordance with that. As a result, one objection has been received. There were no objections from Dorset Police, nor Fire Service, Environmental Health and Trading Standards, who were also consulted. Any decision to refuse this renewal application must be relevant to mandatory or discretionary grounds as set out in my report. And as before, Section 8 of the Act allows the authority to renew a licence on such terms and conditions and subject to such restrictions as may be specified. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we members have any questions of the licensing officer?
No, Chair.
No, thank you.
Does the applicant have any questions regarding the licensing officer's report?
No, thank you.
And does the objector have any questions?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, we'll move on. The applicant is invited to make their application.
Thank you, Chair. So I'd just like to thank you for the opportunity to represent the company today. Our store at 333 to 335 Holdenhurst Road has been in operation for a number of years, 23 years at the moment. We're a professionally run store and we run in accordance with our licensing conditions. We take the licensing conditions very seriously, and we have had some changes in the last year on direction from the council. We changed the sign above the store, which was done at an expense. We chose not to object to that request from the council to change that sign. So we have a nice big new sign outside the store, which is good. Since the renewal meeting last year, we're also submitting every window change to the council prior to any change taking place. And there has been no rejections of our requests for any of the amendments in our proposed changes to the window, which we normally do once a month. We employ multiple local people in the store manager, assistant manager, sales assistants, and these are extremely capable and they take great pride in the exceptional work that they do every day in our store. We currently run 19 locations across the UK, operating across 15 different councils. We've never had a proposal of a new licence refused or a renewal of a existing licence refused. There has been no significant changes to the local area since the renewal last year of the licence, and there has been no objections from the police or other local organisations, as said from the licensing officer. There is one single objection from local resident on the same grounds as last year's renewal. The single sole objection from the public appears to be based on morality and therefore should be ignored in this renewal process. But obviously I welcome any questions which you may have to the operation that we run on Holdenhurst Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, do we have questions of the applicant?
I don't think so, Chair.
No, thank you, Chair.
Do we have questions from the objector of the applicant?
I do have one question, Chair. I'm just trying to think how to phrase it as a chair. Through the chair, are you aware that an objection based purely on morality is inadmissible, but that if an objection on other legally appropriate grounds has moral undertones, that is admissible?
I would accept that if there are other clear.
Yes, it goes back to this
Substantial
guidance I
issues.
brought up in the last. Sorry.
That was through. Sorry, that was a question to the applicant through the chair.
Yes. Whether he's aware that purely moral objections are not admissible, but that an objection which is admissible on other grounds can still have moral undertones.
Is that a question for the applicant?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
yes, because
then
you
I'll
stated
invite.
that you can't have an objection if it's moral.
Yes, I believe all your objections are morally based.
Yes. I think probably it's best I get onto my representations to answer that, Chair.
Okay, this is just questions of the
Yes,
applicant
we'll
as it stands
yeah.
at the moment.
Yeah, I can address that then.
Okay. Do we have further questions of the applicant at all? Then we will move on to the objector's representation.
Thank you, Chair. Although you've been good enough to allow me to come to this hearing and expand on this, there isn't really anything to add that isn't repeating what I've already said. If I just say what's the same as last year, that's going to be repeating, so I don't do that. I appreciate that the window is much more acceptable in my eyes for the neighbourhood, and that is very much appreciated. However, it's still the same neighbourhood that it was, with the same issues of location. On the point of a significant change, you don't need a significant change. As came up at the last business, it's Shepton Hurst that's the case law saying you can just have identical facts to a previous year and make a different decision. You're not bound by what was decided last year or any of the other years. Finally, on the morality issue, I did start to speak earlier on the Home Office guidance. Now, that is not 100% accurate on what the case law is, and it says that moral objections are not admissible. Now, the missing part, and I'm remembering back decades to this in a lecture, being told, now you've got to get this right, you know, to pass your exam. The word that's crucial is pure. So a purely moral objection is not admissible, but the fact that someone who objects on other grounds like the Equality Act or anything else, the fact that they have moral objections as well means that's still admissible. It doesn't wipe out the objection, and I think this is where the judicial review caught people out a bit on the policy. But that's I'm not happy to expand on what I said about the products being sold. I think last year the IT went down, so I felt a bit freer, but I'm not happy to talk about what's being sold when it's being broadcast and anybody could see it. So if you'd like me to expand, then I think we'll have to lose the cameras, I'm afraid. But if you don't want me to expand, then we'll just leave it at that.
I think if you have any core lines of inquiry or representation, please expand on those. I think with regards to the products, I am happy that I have a pretty broad appreciation of what's on sale in that retail outlet from previous submissions.
Well, last year the business of the dog was brought up, which was said to be a soft toy. Is that it was at the time advertised as weighted, which is how other items that are sold there are advertised. And I don't think I've ever had a soft toy that's weighted. So that's all I had to say on that, unless you have any questions, obviously.
Thank you. In that case, we will go to member questions for the objector.
No questions.
No questions, thank you.
Does the applicant have any questions of the objector?
No, thank you, Chair.
Do we have any other questions for the objector before we move on? Okay. Then we will move to summing up with the objector to go first.
Thank you, Chair. And just to sum up, that this is the last licensed sex shop in Holdenhurst Road. There's no need for it. It's the public interest in having it is not served versus the public interest in not having it. Thank you.
Thank you. And then to the applicant sum up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Obviously, I disagree with the objection. Given our customer numbers have increased by 10% in the last year, that would clearly show an increased demand. Thank you.
Thank you. And does the licensing officer wish to sum up?
No, thank you.
Thank you. So I will now conclude the hearing. At the end of this meeting, the subcommittee will adjourn in private with the legal advisor and the clerk to deliberate. The decision will be conveyed to you in writing as explained at the beginning of the hearing. We will now close the live stream and end the meeting.